Between Two Worlds. Chapter 1. The First Night. Elara had always been the quiet type. She grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone, but she preferred the company of books to people. Her parents ran a little library there. Nothing fancy, just shelves crammed with second-hand novels in a corner for kids to read comics. She spent her childhood behind the counter, stamping due dates and sneaking reads when no one was looking. When she was 18, she moved to the city for university. Studied literature, of course. Dreamed of writing her own stories one day. But life got in the way. Jobs were scarce, rent was high, and before she knew it, she was working in a chain bookstore, shelving bestsellers and dealing with customers who barely looked up from their phones. That didn't last. The store closed down, online shopping. They said, Elara scraped together what she had saved and bought the old bookshop on the corner of Elm Street, and with a little help from her parents. It was run down, with creaky floors and a leaky roof, but it was hers. She fixed it up slowly, painted the walls a soft cream, added a comfy chair in the corner for readers, even started a small tea station with chamomile for the regulars. Now, at 32, her days followed a simple rhythm. Open at 9, close at 6. In between, unpack deliveries, recommend books, balance the till. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Most days, anyway. Today had been one of the slow ones. Rain started early, keeping people inside. Only a handful of customers. An old man looking for war histories. A student grabbing textbooks. A woman who browsed for an hour and left with nothing. Elara didn't mind the quiet. It gave her time to sort through a box of donated books, mostly mysteries and romances. A few gems she set aside for the front display. By closing time, the rain had picked up. She locked the door, flipped the sign to close, and climbed the narrow stairs to her apartment above. The space was small, one bedroom, a kitchenette, a living area with a sofa and her overflowing bookshelf. The window overlooked the street, where puddles reflected passing headlights. She made chamomile tea, as always, sat at the small table, sipping it slowly while flipping through one of the donated books, an old fantasy novel about hidden worlds. The words blurred after a while. Her mind wandered to the usual things. The roof needed patching again. Bills were due next week. And that nagging loneliness that crept in on rainy nights. She washed the cup, brushed her teeth, and changed into her nightgown. The bed was unmade for morning. She straightened the sheets and climbed in. The room was dark except for the faint glow of streetlight through the curtains. Elara closed her eyes and waited for sleep. It came quicker than usual. One moment she was listening to the distant hum of traffic and the tap of rain. The next, she felt a shift. Cool air on her face, the scent of damp earth and fresh flowers. She opened her eyes slowly. She lay in a wide bed made of soft moss and woven vines, tucked against a small tree stump no taller than her waist. Moonlight filtered through a canopy of leaves overhead. A crescent moon hung low in the sky, bright and close, casting everything in silver blue. A warm weight rested at her feet. She looked down and saw a smoke-gray cat curled on the blanket, watching her with calm green-gold eyes. When she stirred, he stood, stretched, and walked up to sit beside her pillow. He touched his nose gently to her cheek. A name came to her, clear and certain. Whisper Willow. Another name settled inside her too, like a forgotten memory, Lira. She sat up slowly. The air smelled of night flowers and clean rain. Her nightgown had changed. Now a light, sleeveless dress brushing her ankles. Her hair felt the same short length, but softer with a faint glow. Whisper Willow jumped down and looked back at her, tail raised like an invitation. Lira swung her legs over the edge. The moss was cool under her bare feet. Tiny white flowers opened where she stepped, then closed again, releasing a soft scent. She followed the cat along a narrow path. Trees rose around them, trunks wide and smooth to the touch. Fireflies drifted in slow spirals, leaving faint trails of light. Every few steps, something caught her eye, a small pool reflecting stars that weren't in the sky above, a ring of mushrooms humming faintly. A single silver feather on a stone, still warm. They walked in comfortable silence. Time felt different here. Slower, wider. Lira breathed deeply, feeling the day's weight lift a little with each step. The path opened at a quiet stream. Water flowed clear over smooth pebbles, glowing softly from within. On the far bank stood a willow tree, branches trailing in the current. Beneath it waited a small wooden boat, painted blue like her gown. Whisper Willow hopped in and sat at the front. Looking at her expectantly, Lira waded across, the water cool around her ankles, and climbed in. The boat moved on its own, gentle and steady, rocking like a cradle. They drifted for what felt like hours. Lira trailed her fingers in the water, watching ripples of light spread out. Whisper Willow batted occasionally at glowing fish that darted away in sparks of color. The stream carried them past meadows of night flowers, under arches of branches heavy with vines. The banks changed, sometimes closed with whispering leaves, sometimes opening to small clearings where fireflies danced. Lira closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the soft splash of water, the cat's quiet purr, distant nightbird calls. When she opened them, the stream had widened into a calm lake. In the center rose a tiny island, just big enough for one slender tree with silver bark. From its branches hung fruit that shone like captured stars, pulsing gently. Whisper Willow meowed once, soft and clear. Lira understood. This was why they had come. She guided the boat to the island's edge and stepped out onto soft moss. The tree was no taller than her. She reached up and picked one fruit. It was warm, pulsing faintly in her palm. She looked inside the clear skin. A tiny scene played, a city street in rain, a bookshop with warm lights, a woman closing shutters alone. Her own life, distant now, muffled, but real. Warmth spread from the fruit up her arm into her chest. A quiet feeling settled. You belong to both places. You're safe in each. Tears came, warm and quiet. She pressed a fruit to her heart. It dissolved into light that soaked into her skin like sunlight. The island began to fade. The lake, the stream, the willow, everything softened at the edges. Whisper Willow nudged her ankle. Time to go. The world blurred gently, colors running together. Lira opened her eyes back in the mossy bed. Whisper Willow was curled at her feet again. The moon still smiled overhead. She lay still for a long moment, breathing in the night air. Then she lifted one foot and saw a few crumbs of moss clinging to her skin, real moss, cool and damp. She smiled, tucked her feet under the blanket, and closed her eyes. Whisper Willow began to purr. Tomorrow night, she knew, the path would continue.